What up, everyone? This is Brenton.
And Jenna.
This podcast is all about connecting with our Autumn family in a fun and different kind of way.
So turn down that CB, buckle up, and enjoy the show. It's going to be truckin' awesome.
Joe, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Posted up about 40 miles from the pickup. Ready to go in there for my appointment tomorrow morning. How are you?
Nice. Yeah, where are you picking up? I don't need to know the name, but what city you in?
It's I'm picking up in Peoria, Illinois, going to North Carolina.
Nice. So you're in the liquid tank division, which
Yep.
I happen to manage, but you and I never even got to meet face to face.
Nope.
This
Yeah, I
is
think you were on
our first
vacation
time.
when I went through. Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't technology great?
Yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to do this. And I did an interview with one of our pneumatic drivers yesterday, and I'd like to start getting to know more of the fleet. And most of the guys in liquid tanks I have met. There's just a handful that come on board when I happen to be out of the office that day or whatnot. But we got 140 owner operators at Autumn. And so that's about half a year for me to do these interviews if I try to get through the entire fleet.
Yeah. But a year from now, you'll be, how much more progress can you make by getting to know everybody's, kind of what makes everybody tick and be able to, from the customer service aspect, if you look at your owner operators as like customers, from the customer service aspect, how much better will you be able to be at your job? How much happier will, the people that you manage be?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it really goes a long way to get to know guys, get to know their lives, their families. One of the things that I always say at a new driver lunch is I don't know most of the guys' truck numbers. I know we assign you a truck number when you come on board, and a lot of guys will come from other jobs where maybe that's all they ever were to the company.
Mm-hmm.
They'd call in and they'd introduce themselves with their truck number. Hey, this is truck number 1875 or whatever it is. And I don't know hardly anybody's numbers. I just know the guys' names. And I think that's pretty common across all the dispatcher teams at Autumn, where they've gotten to know you guys as people, not just truck drivers or driver numbers.
And from a driver that I've been trucking in some form or capacity for almost 20 years. Actually, a little over 20 years if you want to count the military. I went in the Army in 2003. I was a mechanic, but I was a mechanic in transportation company. So we had basically truck drivers. I had to drive, around the bay, do test drives and stuff after working on it. So almost 20 years. And I've worked from like my first endeavor into like the civilian side was for a small 3-truck company in like Rose Creek, Minnesota, just outside of Austin.
Okay.
And that was when I first got out of the Army. All the way up to I worked for Swift for almost 2 years. And I went to Swift with like 10 years of experience. And I can tell you, when I call somebody, and Tyler, Josh, and Mike, all three, when I've called into the office and I've called the office number, they answer the phone and go, "What's up, Joe?"
Yeah.
And I'm like they know when I'm calling, they know my name. That speaks volumes over, be like, "Hey, yeah, I got this problem at this shipper. All right, Joe, what's your truck number again?"
Right.
It's like they don't know me, they know my truck. And it especially if you have a truck break down and you have to go into another truck, it gets really confusing really quick because all the systems don't update and be like, well, I was in truck 2018, now I'm in truck 2112, and it gets really confusing sometimes when the systems don't catch up. So the fact that I am me, it really speaks to the volumes of what you guys actually do on your side.
Well, that's great that you're feeling that way. We have 4 values at Autumn, things that are painted on our wall and that we talk about as a team all the time. And they're one of them is service and the other one is family. And then we have integrity and leadership. But the idea that, we get to know you as a name, as a person, that goes a long ways. We got one of our drivers actually, or somebody watching here, they said this. That's how it is where I am now. LOL can get confusing. Yeah. When you're trading truck numbers, like Joe said, that gets confusing for all of us trying to figure out who's in what truck, because we have to use the truck numbers for some things. We have to send you your dispatch and stuff like that. But it
and when it
definitely
comes to
does
like
get
billing stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Billing. Yeah. When you start trading trucks, it's much better when you call in and we just say, "Hey, Joe, how you doing? How's your day?
Yep.
Where are you at? What's going on?" Stuff like that.
The reason I gave a little chuckle when you said family for the values was I called a couple other trucker buddies of mine after I got done with the orientation, and they asked me, they're like, "Well, you finally made it to Autumn. How is it?" I'm like, "Dude, I have never worked with so many cousins and like second cousins in my entire life." He's like, "Are you serious? You're related to them?" I'm like, "No, that's just how I felt. I felt like I was kind of at a family reunion. Everybody there was friendly, like over the top friendly."
Yeah.
And without overdoing it, because like you probably been to some functions in your life where you're like, these people are a little crazy, like they're a little too
weird.
friendly. I'm waiting on the Kool-Aid to be passed out, kind of thing. You never got that feeling at the orientation at Autumn. It literally felt like you went to a family reunion.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really, that's cool. It feels like a family reunion sometimes too at work. I'm sure you've seen, or some of you guys out there have seen the pictures of all the food that comes into our office.
Yep.
Our owner Bev and our president CEO Julie, their sister Jill is a baker for fun, but she could be a baker professionally. And when those pans of her cookies come into the office, everybody's rushing to the kitchen to get one. So it is like a big family reunion sometime. How did you
I've
get
noticed,
connected with Autumn, Joe?
believe it or not, my trek to come to Autumn has been almost 4 years in the making.
Really?
So I first stumbled upon Autumn when I was looking for a place to go back in March of like 2019.
Okay.
I didn't know if I wanted to stick with being like a crane operator in North Carolina, or if I wanted to go back over the road. And I stumbled upon Autumn's website, and I had some experience as an owner op at that point, because I did lease op with Swift for like 6 months. And then I got out of doing that, moved to North Carolina, and started messing around in the crane world. But I had stumbled on Autumn's website, and like I started reading through it, and I read about you guys on the forum from a couple other people that basically said, this is the only place that if you want a truck, they will buy the truck for you and let you lease purchase it. And I'm like, ain't no way. And like, I want a Kenworth W9 86-inch studio sleeper. They are not going to go buy that truck. I'm going to get some ragged out like fleet truck that's got 500,000 miles on it that they're going to sell to me for like 200,000. So I looked into it a little more. And I'm like, this would probably be a good thing. Let me give them a call. And I reached out, and you guys were on a hiring freeze. Okay. So I'm like, son of a gun. So I, kind of let my ADD kick in, I guess, a little bit. And I just went off and I messed around in the crane world for about a year or two. And then my wife got stationed outside of North Carolina, and she became a drill sergeant at Fort Jackson. So I couldn't stay in the crane world because there was no open crane positions with any company that I was interested in joining around Columbia, which Fort Jackson, South Carolina is outside of Columbia, South Carolina. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll go back over the road. And well, I went back over the road in old tried and tested true, which for me is flatbed. I cut my teeth on flatbed. Flatbed has always really been a home to me. And so I started looking into lease purchase programs, and I told myself I was going to give myself 45 days to find a good lease purchase program. Well, I started with ELS out of Kinley, North Carolina, and everything was going good for quite a while. You've got another driver here, Dan Decker. He drove for ELS. he knew a guy that was driving for ELS at the time that I came on and went on to a dedicated account with them. And that guy put me in touch with him because the guy he was running for at Mercer at the time was looking for an RGN, somebody that had RGN and heavy haul experience and stuff like that. So he thought maybe I might be the guy. So I got connected with Dan Decker, and it was kind of a friendship that blossomed over a couple months, which turned into a couple years. And well, Dan ended up getting into some predicaments that didn't work out too well for him, and he was looking for a place to go. And I'm like, I heard about this place Autumn, and I looked into them, but they were in a hiring freeze at the time. So I don't know, maybe check into them. I said, everything that I found, they'll buy you a truck and you can lease purchase basically whatever truck you wanted. Basically use Autumn as your bank to get the loan. So he started looking into Autumn, and I guess he got sidetracked doing something else, and he called me back like 3 or 4 months later, and he's like, hey, what do you think of Autumn? I'm like, oh, you mean the Autumn that I told you about? And he's like, yeah, that one. I'm like, yeah, well, everything that I've seen, they seem to be on the up and up. I said, but you know how trucking companies are out here. There could be some shady behind the scenes stuff that you'll never really know until you get in the door. I said, so, it's worth getting information on, but, tread carefully. Let me know what they say. I'll try to help you out. And well, Dan came to Autumn, and Dan was with Autumn for a year and a half, something like that. And then I ended up coming. Yeah. And honestly, Dan the only reason,
Dan still is with Autumn. You said he was. I just want to make sure we're clear.
Well, he was at Autumn about a year and a half before I came here, which he's the one that brought me in the door. I'm the one that turned him on to Autumn. And honestly, the only reason I came here was ELS got bought out by Blair, and they made a whole bunch of promises about how much better our life was going to be. And well, the paychecks went quick.
Yeah. So I know Autumn has a great referral program or referral bonus program for our current owner operators. Yep. Who got the referral money for you though? Because if you referred Dan, but Dan referred to you, I think Dan owes you some money.
Dan, I actually ended up buying his headache rack from him that he had when he was at Mercer. So I mean, It all worked itself out in the wash. So yeah, I'm not holding that up, too much. But I'm glad Dan came to Autumn because of me, and then I came to Autumn because of Dan.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you kept after it. You mentioned us being on a hiring freeze, and I know right now our hopper division is a division that's completely full. They got about a 10 owner operator wait list looking to get into that. We do have some open liquid tanks. So if people are looking for liquid tank hauling, I still got a few spots on my team. You can be partners with Joe here and give us a call, reach out about that. But it's all really a matter about just having the equipment available, and we're growing every year. We've consistently grown at Autumn. I've been here 11 years and have just seen what I like about our business model is that I like to talk about, going on a rise toward that far horizon. So slowly inclining, growing every year, but doing it wisely, doing it smart. We're not going to go out there and buy 50 different tanks. Oh my goodness. Zach Levengood is a liquid tank driver who's watching right now. His truck's been broke down. This is breaking news on the podcast here. His truck will be ready tomorrow. That is great news, Zach. We can't wait to have you back out there on the road. And I'm sure you're ready to get going because your wife has had you busy while you've been broke down. That's the danger about going home, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah.
But, your wife will get you busy and always something for you to do.
Well, especially as an owner op, because you run into issues, just minor little issues with your truck while you're out here on the road being like, okay, well, when I go home, I'll take care of that. And then as soon as you get home, you get smacked with the honey-do list. And then before you know it, you've been home for 4 or 5 days and, dispatch is calling you going, hey, you gonna pick up that load on Monday? And be like, oh crap, man, I haven't even touched my truck and I haven't even done my laundry yet. And it can go quick.
Well, so you've been driving for a long time. That kind of answers that question. You explained what the lease purchase. So we have a lease purchase ownership program here at Autumn, And it's something that a lot of guys take advantage of. You can come to Autumn with your own truck. That's fantastic. If you've already
As long as
one
it's newer than a 2000, because I have another truck sitting at home that's a 99. And Mr. Wallen, I have tried to fight with him, and Mr. Wallen says no, it has to be 2000 or newer.
Yep. So there are some stipulations about that, but talk about the lease purchase program, because you're going through that. That's what got you here. Being that you couldn't bring that 1999 with you.
Yeah.
How has the lease purchase ownership program been for you?
I was actually surprised about it, about how good it was in a good way. Am I allowed to talk numbers, or?
Let's just stay vague. Let's stay general.
Let's just say vague. Okay. Yep. So when I leased, this truck, let me see if I can.
There it is.
That was the International Lone Star that I had when I was with ELS. When I got that truck, it was a 2019. It had over 200,000 miles on it, and I was paying probably about 30 grand more than what they bought it for new at the time that I signed the lease on that truck.
Yeah.
My payments were $7.99 a week, and I was making good money doing that. And it honestly, like, I knew by the numbers I was kind of getting screwed a little bit, but it's a lease purchase program. What are you going to do? Well, when things were really going downhill with Blair quick, and like everything about me coming to Autumn came together at the perfect time. You guys bought 2 Freightliner Coronado gliders. One of them was blue and one of them was red. I got the red one. The red one was a 2020, had about 120,000 miles on it. And, Wallen told me how much you guys bought it for, and you guys tacked just a little bit of money on top to make money on the deal. So, like, I was sitting there shocked that you guys didn't just price gouge on it.
Yeah.
So, like, I was like, holy crap, like, you could get so much more money for this just by lease purchasing it out, because that's what trucking companies do. You guys don't operate that way. You don't want to make money on the trucks. You want to make money with the trucks, i.e. keeping us running. And that's the way that's the way that a business partnership should actually work out. Your success is based on my success, not the fact that I'm enslaved to you because I want this truck, kind of thing. And that's a completely different business model than I have ever encountered. Like with Swift, with ELS, I was actually leasing a trailer through Blair, and they kind of had the same model as everyone else. They, they were trying to make a lot of money on the equipment and not make, Hartwell, and they were also trying to make a lot of money off of what the equipment did, hauling loads and stuff. You guys aren't structured like that. Everybody's got to make money, true, but you're not interested in making money on equipment. You're interested on making money on what the equipment can do.
Yeah, and that's one of the first things that I learned when I started at Autumn. Started dispatching in liquid tanks before moving up into the role that I'm at now, running the division. But I learned pretty quickly that our division, we only did as well as the drivers were doing. And so their success was our success. That's something that I talk about at that driver lunch when a guy starts too, reminding them that, we only make money if the trailer is running, and good drivers are making good loads and drivers are happy. If drivers aren't successful at Autumn and they stop working here, our trailer sits, and that trailer is not going to make money with the tractor connected to it. So it really is a partnership, something that we work hard at, that mutual success, and always talking in the office about what we can do to help you guys succeed, the tools that we offer, the support that we try to give on our end to make sure that you can focus on driving and being successful out on the road.
Oh, and if I may point to the conversation you and I had earlier this morning, I called in with a problem. You listened to the problem, you acknowledged that it was a problem, and then you went back further to let me know it wasn't as big of a problem as what I was making it out to be.
Yeah.
Dying to know, how did Joseph get the nickname Chevy? Okay, so if I may, I can explain that.
Yeah, let's hear it. If Cassie's dying to know, then we all need to know. Thanks, Gary Ruth. I appreciate this. I do really appreciate that.
I got the nickname Chevy back in about 2004 when I was in the Army. So I was stationed in Korea for 2 years, and I started very young, I guess you could say, as a mechanic, getting into my mechanical knowledge. And one of the guys I went to church with in Blooming Prairie, Minnesota, guy by the name of Brian Peterson, he was a GM tech for Hirsch Motors in Owatonna, Minnesota. And, after school and on the weekends, I would always go over to his house and help him rebuild transmissions, swap engines, learn basically about how cars work through a GM system. Well, I became a huge Chevy fan. And when I was in Korea, I used to talk to a bunch of people about their Camaros and their Firebirds that they had back home, and talking about they have this problem. Oh, my wife has this, this Blazer. My wife has this Tahoe or whatever, and it's doing this, and the mechanic says it's this, and I'm like, I don't think it's that. Let's try this. And at the same time, my parents, for my birthday, was always sending me Chevy racing merchandise, hats, shirts, stuff like that. So that's pretty much all I wore when I didn't wear uniforms. So because I knew Chevrolet and GM type products, and I was always wearing shit, people just started calling me, "Oh, you're Mr. Chevy. You are Mr. Chevy. You are the poster child for Chevrolet." And I just they shortened it to Chevy because, well, Army guys are lazy. So they shortened it to Chevy, and that's pretty much all she wrote. I've had that nickname since, like I said, about 2004.
Okay. Well, there you go, Cassie. That answers that. Hey, Steve, thanks for your comment here. Yes, you can get out of the house and get home living in New England. I don't know why you'd want to leave, because that's where the Red Sox are, which is the best team in baseball, my favorite team. But get in touch with our recruiting. We'd love to talk to you about getting in and out of New England and working at Autumn.
I've hauled a couple loads, more than a couple loads, in and out of New Jersey. I know I've been offered loads up to Maine that ended up falling through, but I know people that's taken loads to New York. So yeah, you guys got plenty of freight up in the New England area.
Yeah, liquid tank division, pneumatic division. Also, we both run up in that area. So Joe, you've been talking a lot about Minnesota, Austin, Blooming Prairie. Is that where you grew up?
No, not really.
Okay.
So I was born in West Virginia, Wheeling, West Virginia. My dad was a chemical engineer, so he moved around a lot. When I was 5 years old, we moved out to Washington State in the Tacoma area. I lived there from the age of 5 to about the age of 13, and Dad took a job in Blooming Prairie at the Arkema plant. I don't know what it's called now. It was Viking Chemical, then it became Elf, then it became Atachem, and then Atafina. And then Dad got a job in Mankato after I had already joined the Army and left. But I came to Minnesota when I was like 13, and I lived there in Blooming Prairie. I went to Blooming Prairie High School, the Awesome Blossoms, for 1 year. And then where we lived, it was halfway between Blooming Prairie and Hayfield. So I ended up going to Hayfield from 9th through 12th, and I graduated Hayfield High School in 2003.
Okay. Yeah, I think it is still Arkema. We actually have loaded liquid tanker out of there before.
They make epoxidized soybean oil, so yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yep, that's what we were picking it up, and I actually visited that plant, probably 5 or 6 years ago. Got a little tour and stopped in Blooming Prairie, and then went down to Austin, which you mentioned earlier. We used to haul a lot of fat out of Hormel.
That's a funny story. Once, when I first got out of the Army in 2007, I actually got a job at Quality Pork, which is the slaughterhouse side of Hormel. Okay. And I worked there for like 3 months. And I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with the smells. I'm done with, the walking in rivers of blood all the time. And yeah, I'm just done with this. I'm going to go try to get my CDL. And luckily at the time, Minnesota was one of 3 states to where all I had to do was produce my driving record from the military, my driver's license, my DA 348 from the Army, and I didn't have to take the driving test. All I had to do is take the written test. So I'm probably one of the only people that you will ever meet that got their CDL without ever going through CDL school.
Yeah, that's probably a lot of guys jealous hearing that.
Yeah. Everything hit the perfect time for me at that point.
So, Joe, what are you seeing out there on the roads? You've been driving for 20 years. How would you say trucking is evolving? How has it changed? What's different? What, for good and bad? I'm sure there's some positive ways that it's changed, and probably some ways that you wish it would go back to the way that it was. What's your sense on how trucking has been evolving?
What do you want to do first? You want to do the good or the bad?
Let's do the bad quick, and then let's spend a little bit more time on the good.
It's nowhere
Here's a
near
comment
as
for you
friendly.
here, Joe. Do you still live in North Carolina? That's my home state. Just wanted to say hi.
I do live in North Carolina. I live right smack dab in the center of North Carolina in Sanford.
All right. Here's Steve. He didn't go to CDL school either. The two of you, I guess, are both lucky.
It's rare, but it's not uncommon, I guess you could say. I've met a couple other people, but not a lot. Most people have had to go through CDL school. As excuse me, as far as trucking these days, it's nowhere near as friendly as it used to be. So I started my OTR career essentially with Martin Transport out of Mondovi, Wisconsin,
Yep.
in late 2007.
I had no idea that we were going to have all these local connections during this conversation.
You always got to come home. That's why I came back to a Minnesota carrier. No, it's nowhere near as friendly. There's a lot of truckers, and I think honestly, the same technology that I told you is a wonderful thing. I think that's what killed it, because it used to be this was your only real way to talk to people, because the cell phone infrastructure was nowhere near in 2007 all the way up to like 2010 was nowhere near what it is today. Now, like, I'll have people pass me. They're watching a movie on their tablet while they're video chatting with their girlfriend driving down the road.
Jeez. Yeah.
And
What
I can get on a phone call. Yeah, I can get on a phone call with my buddy and be on a phone call for 8 hours and not talk to anybody around me. You go into the truck stop, everybody has got their nose in their phone. Like, it's turned off. It's turned off our communication with our fellow man, I guess you could say it. We used to walk into a truck stop and meet 50 strangers that became buddies. Now we walk into truck stop as strangers and leave as strangers. We don't talk to anybody. There's no common courtesy anymore. You got people that'll park in the fuel island, go take a shower, hold up the fuel island. Like, there's a lot of bad stuff. And I mean, I guess you can take this for what you will. You've got a bunch of people from a bunch of different countries that have different cultures, that what we would consider rude, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And what we would consider rude, or what they would consider rude, we don't. So it causes a lot of clashing. And that's a lot of the bad.
I think you bring up a really good point there, just about the way technology, particularly cell phones, and mobile entertainment, have driven people into their own little worlds in their mind, not even knowing what's going on around them sometimes. I know exactly what you mean. You go into a restaurant and everyone's sitting there on their phone. You'll see people on a date, married couple even, they're both sitting there staring at their phones, not talking to each other anymore.
It's
the CB
honestly,
thing, it used to be so cool to ride with my dad and hear that Breaker 19 and he'd be talking to somebody on his CB, and you're just sitting in the seat next to him listening, thinking, this is the coolest thing in the world. Warning each other about the coops coming up and the bears out there and all that stuff.
Wrecks, backups, how to get around the backups. I spent about $1,200 when I first got that Lone Star, just getting a really good CB and boosting up the antennas and stuff like that so I could really get out there. And I ended up running into like 3 different accidents over a month time frame on I-95 there in North Carolina, to where it just shut the interstate down, especially in that construction zone when it was really bad. And not a peep on the CB about it. And then you grabbed a CB and you holler into it and be like, hey, what's going on up here at the 59-mile marker or whatever? Oh, somebody done turned their backup radio on. They hit a backup and they turned their radio on. No, mine's been on the entire time and I didn't hear a single peep. So it's not that.
Yeah, I think JJ's right. A lot of guys just probably don't even have them anymore. They don't even have them.
For the longest time, companies like Schneider and TMC, it was outlawed to have them in there. Like the drivers would get fired if they were caught having, because once the FMCSA cracked down on like handheld electronic use, a lot of companies took it to mean the CB radio as well. So they basically made it a firing offense. TMC was real bad for it for a while. If you were caught with a CB in the truck, you could get fired. And then they ran into a bunch of customers that their scale houses only operated off of a CB, so they had to put them back in, but the drivers weren't allowed to use them going down the road.
Okay.
So I think that led to a lot of it as well.
Well, how about what's some of the good stuff that you're seeing? Oh, I have a cricket noise on my soundboard. I wish I knew which button it was.
I was going to say, honestly, the fact that companies like Autumn still exist. You guys put people over profits, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, obviously, everybody has to make money in order to continue to the future, but the majority of the trucking companies out there, like the drivers are just a number. They don't care about the humanity that's sitting in the seat. They just need to put a butt in the seat. And it's leading to one of the bad things that you've got less and less skilled operators behind the wheel of these trucks. But even your old timers that have been driving 20, 30, 40 years, they're scared to even go out and help people, but some of them are still willing to do it. So companies like Autumn existing, and I know there's more of them out there, and there's more people every day that's trying to create that feel again. So that would definitely be a good thing. And the fact that we can persevere through so much external pressure as an industry. I mean, you've got brokers coming in trying to undercut the rates. You've got the FMCSA coming up with more and more regulations by the day. You've got, other truckers that can come in. I mean, COVID was real bad as far as you want to make $1 million, buy a truck, lease a trailer. There you go, because all of the shipping capacity was behind because everybody shut down. So, you've got all of these new people that are coming in and trying to push everything away, but we're still resilient. And even through all of that, people are still trying to keep the culture of what it means to be a trucker, not a driver, not a trucking culture, to be a trucker.
I think that's a great thing that you're pointing out there, that keeping the culture alive of what a truck driver is. I love that you use the word resilient. Can't imagine, can't even break down all the obstacles that you guys face in terms of just one day. You can have 50 different obstacles in just one day, and you get up in the morning, get in your truck, and you do it again, and you do it again, spending time away from your family, your loved ones, for a career that you love. I think most guys truck because they love it. Especially those people, the true truckers in that culture, like you're talking about. But it is a grind, man. It's a hard thing what you guys do. And I just want to take a second to say that we at Autumn really appreciate you guys and recognize those sacrifices that you have to make for the career that you love. It's a big deal.
Well, you said something a little earlier in this that I wanted to go back and commend you for. You guys are looking to grow, but you're looking for what I call sustainable growth. So you want to go next year and maybe buy 3 or 4 new tanks. You're not trying to buy 30 or 40. And the companies that I've driven for in the past that went belly up, that's what they ended up doing, was they would go and they would look for these lucrative contracts. And as soon as they would get somebody that could promise them like 10 loads a week at $350 a mile, and then as soon as that company comes to them and says, hey, can you do 20 loads a week, they instantly go out and buy, a whole bunch of equipment, and it lasts 2 months, and then the company cuts back or be like, hey man, we need a rate decrease. And then, they end up going upside down financially, and then they end up getting in a lot of trouble. And you guys are interested in slow, steady growth. which I call sustainable growth.
Yep.
And I like that because that means you're going to be here for the long haul.
Yeah, we just celebrated 44 years this year as a company. Company Autumn was started in 1980. Our owner, Lowell Reeks, his daughter runs the company still. It's got that family feel, and that's always been the model. If there's an opportunity out there and it looks like a good opportunity, we'll pursue it. We'll look into it, but we're not going to do, like you said, and go crazy and just jump after things and hope that they work out. You know, we have great leadership between Julie and Josh and Chris, and everybody there is of the same mindset that how can we continue to grow, but how can we continue to grow smart, and so that we are around for the long haul.
And that's always a good mentality. I guess the only thing that scares me about that is eventually the leadership's going to change at the top, and is the new leadership going to come in and only be looking at profits? And I mean, the people that you got in place right now is good, and that's a very good mentality to have, and I don't think it's going to change. But unfortunately, people get old. People look to retire. You know, unfortunate things happen to people in the blink of an eye, and you know what happens when the people that are keeping this culture change. That's what scares me, because I've watched it firsthand. I've watched good people put 40 or 50 years into a company and decide that it was, you know, it was time to hang it up and retire, and then they turn the company over to a new form of leadership, and within 2 years it's gone.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that's something that I feel real confident is nothing to worry about at Autumn for decades. I don't see Julie, our leader, is strong in her role. She loves what she does. Her mom still is our vice president, and she still comes into the office multiple times a week. It's described, if you go back and listen to one of our original podcasts, it's called The Origins of Autumn. You can find it on Spotify. And I interviewed Julie and her mom to talk about how Autumn got started. And one of the things they say is that growing up, Autumn was like another child in the family. They'd sit around at dinner, and the conversation would be, Julie, how was your day? Jill, how was your day? How did Autumn do today? And they really hold that family. And I think things like you and I are doing right here are really important to continue that culture of family, that culture of valuing one another, and carrying on the Autumn story, passing that on as new people come to work at Autumn. We've added some dispatchers recently, and I always try to get with them right away and say, here's who Autumn is, here's what our values are, here's where we came from. And it's pretty cool how fast people pick that up. Autumn kind of just sucks you in and makes you want to be a part of who Autumn is. And so I think as we look down the road, you're going to have next generations of leaders who want to continue on that feeling at Autumn and want to continue on that tradition.
Well, and you foster that environment here.
Oh, look who's here. Daniel Decker.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that pretty face.
One of the things Dan told me before I came here was, because I had spent years, honestly, between ELS and Blair having to fight for everything. And, you know, sometimes two hard heads beat together and it doesn't turn out to be an ideal situation for either. Right. And Dan kind of warned me that you guys don't have that kind of atmosphere and you don't put up with that kind of atmosphere. So he told me, he's like, you know, kind of act like you're in the military again and talking to higher ranking people when you talk to these people. Use a little bit of tact. You can be firm, but don't do what you're used to doing. And I kind of came here, I'm not going to say necessarily loaded for bear, ready to, you know, okay, these guys are going to screw me over too. I didn't really come here with that attitude, but I came kind of with a cautious shield around me a little bit, going, okay, sure, you could make one misstep and be in big time and they're going to hold you to it and this, that, and the other. And like just the atmosphere from the time that I met Jenna, and Jenna's charming, friendly personality literally started within about an hour or two, just disarming that. And then I met Chris Senti, and I'm like, oh, great. Here goes the safety guy. Just like every other safety guy, doesn't know jack about trucking, but he's going to tell me how to do my job. Nope. Nope. This guy has an awesome sense of humor. He likes to turn somewhat serious things into a joke to kind of break the ice, but at the same time, he lets you know, look, this is a serious situation, take it serious, but that doesn't mean that we can't crack a couple of jokes to, make the learning environment a little better. Like everybody was just, they disarmed that about me. And, I love it. There's, you don't have to worry about necessarily people having a bad day and taking it out on you, because people are everybody I've talked to has been friendly. I mean, poor Wallen, that dude is swamped on a daily basis, and he has every right to just start throwing things at the next person that calls in that has a problem, and he doesn't. He's just like the friendliest. Like, you're sitting here with a problem, and he treats every person that comes to him with a problem as the first person of the day that has come to him with a problem after he just had a wonderful night's rest, after like a 2-week vacation. Like, he has that mentality, and I love that, because I don't like to fight for everything that I have. I don't mind doing it, but I don't like to do it, because
it gets exhausting.
It does. And the old saying is you get more flies with honey than vinegar.
That's right.
And I truly believe that, and you guys do too. And that's like, is everything perfect here at Autumn? No, but that doesn't mean that you guys don't try to make it that way.
Yeah, and I think
like our conversation this morning.
I was going to say that's a great example of, I'm going to take the time to listen to you, hear you out, try to understand where you're coming from. I'm going to share how I see things, and hopefully we walk away in some form of agreement and walk away understanding what's best for that partnership that we're trying to build.
And like this morning, I told you, I haven't been doing that well. Look at my last 3 weeks, and you absolutely, your last 3 weeks wasn't the best. But if you look at your last 3 months, look how good you've been doing. And I'm like, holy crap, I did not go back that far. I just looked at the immediate past. So you acknowledge that you could do better. And even in the call, I'm like, okay, now I've ragged enough on you. What have you noticed? Because I've only been here since the end of March. As a matter of fact, my birthday was when I showed up for orientation. I've only been here since the end of March. And I know you got plenty of guys that have been here 10 plus years. What are they doing that maybe I'm not doing? Or what are they not doing that maybe I'm doing that I need to change to be a better fit for the team? And, it's not all sunshine and roses every day, every week, sometimes even every month. In trucking, you're going to have your good weeks, you're going to have your bad weeks. I understand that. Sometimes the good weeks are really good, sometimes they're average. Sometimes the bad weeks are really bad, and sometimes they're okay, that's just a little less than average. But it all evens out. And the fact that you guys foster the environment that you do makes those lows a lot easier to traverse, and makes those highs that much more celebratory.
Right. Well, I want to thank you, Joe, for jumping on here with me tonight. It's been good to talk to you. I want to thank everybody that's been watching too. It's been fun to read all the comments coming in and interact with you guys a little bit. Joe's not on Instagram or Twitter, he said, so I can't point you to any of that. But if you want to get in touch with him, let us know. And I'm sure Joe would be happy to. I'm sure you're happy, Joe, right? To talk to anybody who's got questions for you.
If anybody's at Autumn and they have some questions for me about like where I live, or how I do certain things on tank, how I do certain things as owner operators, because I've spent a decent amount of time as an owner operator. I've learned from big fleets, especially on the maintenance side, about how to do things. I've learned from small guys that have owned 3 trucks that I've driven for about how to do things maintenance wise and how to take care of trucks and stuff. So if anybody that works at Autumn has a question, they can call you and you can give them my number. I'll give you that permission, and they can reach out to me directly.
That's awesome. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it. Get some rest. You got to pick up tomorrow morning, and then you're going to be flying down and you're going to be trucking down to North Carolina.
Yeah, I don't fly. I don't get in a big hurry to go anywhere, especially with the surge in the tank. Yeah, I'm good. I don't like getting beat up that much.
Chris Senti's going to be happy to hear that as well. All right, man. Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Signing off.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Good to talk to you.
You too.
Yep. Bye.